Welcome to Protecting Your Legacy with Estate Planning.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to an all new episode of Protecting Your Legacy with Estate Planning. My buddy Adam Grant here. I'm your host, Mike Leon. Adam is the founding partner over at Stonewood Law PC in Encino, California. And he's got a legal experience focusing on estate planning, probate, conservatorships, trust administration, supplemental needs trust, and entertainment law. And he's known for his client centered approach. He's been helping Southern California families protect generations to come and what matters to them the most, which is building that lasting peace of mind. In today's episode, Adam and I are going to dive deep into estate planning and why choosing the right estate planning attorney matters. So, Adam, good to see you as always. Let's start with this high level. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you into estate planning.
Certainly. Great question. Thank you for having me on, Mike, and I'm happy to be here. Estate planning is obviously a very unique field. It tends to be taught less in law school these days. And what I found was people are retiring at a very fast pace. So there are a lot of experienced attorneys. They've been doing it for 30 or 40 years, but they're retiring at a fast pace. They're passing away at a fast pace. And people don't have exposure to this area of law. There are tools that can help young families like mine. And I really wanted to champion that spirit of bringing these tools to a whole new generation, ensuring that their families are protected, that they have the right assets covered. So they have things going where they want them going. Their legacy is extremely important. One thing I commonly put out there is you can buy a car, a Ferrari, a home, a lot of these very nice valuables, but when you pass, they're gone. Your legacy, this estate plan, is the only thing you can purchase. It's the best thing you can purchase with your money. It's the only thing that's going to outlast you. It's going to transcend your existence on this planet. And it'll provide all those hard-earned assets to the people you want them going to, rather than just having a court decide. So I felt very compelled to bring these assets, these tools to the younger generations. But with that, also had been doing entertainment. So a little bit about myself. I've been doing entertainment for a good amount of time, in-house attorney at various number of studios. But the writing was always on the wall. Between the strikes and the various hardships among talent and producers, the studios obviously are joining forces and there's consolidation left and right. But beyond that, when you work in entertainment, I'd say about 85% of the work you do goes nowhere. So as much as I love doing the work and helping documentaries and projects, and I still do that, a lot of it is development work. So people will spend their entire lives or a good portion of their work drafting or writing these scripts that perhaps go nowhere. And so you'll do deals with various parties and production companies and studios, and they ultimately go nowhere. So, it's nice to see the 10 or 15% of the work you do come on the big screen. It's the other work that kind of falls through the cracks that makes the larger entertainment practice feel less rewarding. So that's where picking up with estate planning, I could help younger families. I could be more of an asset. And also there's a need, so I could fill that need.
Yeah. I love hearing that as somebody who works in the entertainment space and has for years at some of those said studios as well. On the opposite side, the creating part of this, but let me get back to the estate planning part of this. So, and I love that you mentioned that young people as well need to do estate planning in addition to obviously older folks. But when someone is choosing an estate planning attorney, let's get into what the episode was aproposly named for. What are some of the important qualities that they should be looking for in that attorney?
That's a great question. So trust is obviously the first and foremost. You want to trust your attorney, but in this space in particular, and just picking up on what we touched on for a second, it is an aging field. So you will have an attorney, most likely if you don't find a younger attorney, that will help your family for only so long. And then when they retire or when they pass, that's all hit a wall. Perhaps you get someone else at the firm, they pick up a cold file, but that's not really what you're looking for. My belief is that you're looking for someone who's on the younger side. If you have a family that perhaps has kids and grandkids, you have that generational advising or counsel that they can turn to. So when things happen, the kids know who to reach out to. And more importantly, that attorney is going to be there at that time of need.
There are people out there that potentially choose like these quick or low cost options when it comes to doing this type of estate planning. What are some of the risks that are associated with going that route?
That's such a great question. I get so many clients who have tried to do this on their own And props to them. It is a tool, and with AI, people are getting more and more comfortable putting legal documents together, feeling like they have the components in one place. But these clients again come to me with incomplete trust. The assets weren't properly transferred into the trust. There's no hand holding. It's just them generating a document based off your instructions, a couple fields that you provide them. They're not really getting to know you and understand you. They're not going to hold your hand and ensure that your assets are transferred to the trust so that when something happens, you might still end up in probate, which is the whole reason you decided to do the trust in the first place. The same goes for wills. People aren't very familiar with what they need out of a will or if they have a trust to accompany it. So talking to an attorney, having that additional knowledge and having that customization is extremely important. And then you don't get turned around having to pay double to have another attorney review what perhaps a wills.com spit out. It is very frequent and common. So you can cut that off and start with someone. It's really not as expensive as people might think, but you get an early start and your kids and grandkids can meet this attorney and grow with them so that as needed, they can always reach out to that counsel.
Adam, you touched on AI and technology and like these quick solves, and it funnels into this follow-up of like, have you heard from clients about the responsiveness that you are in terms of returning phone calls? You provide clear explanations. Like, talk a little bit more about that personal aspect of having someone to guide you through the process versus, like you said, going at it alone and using all these other type of makeshift options.
Mm-hmm. Again, another great question. And this comes back to trust and how attorneys work. I had always found that attorneys, they're not as responsive as you'd like them to be. Attorneys owe you a level of diligence and of care, but beyond that, they should be responsive. So I found that attorneys could take a week or two to get back to you, and usually you want an answer because it's a pressing legal matter. I have a very different approach, and it's also just based off the way I'm structured and I work. In my engagement agreements, I have a 36-hour guaranteed response time. What that means is if you give me a call, you're guaranteed to get a call back or an email back within 36 hours, absent weekends and exigent circumstances, of course. But that's because I want to be responsive for the client. I intend on answering those phone calls, and if I can't answer them right away, getting back to you within the next day or so. I want to be there, accessible for not just you, but your kids, your grandkids, and that way you have that faith and that trust that things are in the right place, things are being worked on. You also know what's going on with your case or your matter, where things stand, and being kept apprised of all the updates until you have what you need and you understand how to transfer those assets. You want to make sure that you put things in the trust, that they're all going to the right people. And it's important that you have the attorney in place that's going to be there for the long run. That's not just going to skip out in a few years, that you have documents stored with and you can't then get those documents. These documents are all extremely important. Sometimes they house originals. You want to have an attorney who's accessible to you, who can answer those phone calls, get back to you so you don't feel like you're in the dark for days on end, but also who's on top of your case and holding your hand to ensure that your assets are properly in the trust and you avoid probate, which is the real goal you're here in the first place.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I would love for you now to give, if you have off the top of your head, a personal example of maybe a family, they came to you, they ran into problems, they didn't get the right attorney to guide them. How did you help them navigate that situation?
Yep. This is just as common as yesterday, but I get these all the time. I had a client come in yesterday who, of course, had the same issue. She had a father who had passed away, a stepmother who she was not very close with. They were on very opposite ends of the spectrum, did not get along, did not agree. When he passed away, the estate planning attorney did not have several of the assets properly put into the trust. They attempted to work with the other party, but of course, that stepmother was not willing to cooperate, and she dragged this out with legal fees for years. It got to a point where the client's rightful inheritance, her 50%, as spelled out in the trust, never went to her. She gave her entire estate away because the legal costs were getting too much and she couldn't fight it anymore. She was physically and emotionally exhausted. And I think that's really where having an attorney that absolves you of those issues, that takes on your problems, but that also catches things before they bloom into problems. And that's where you want to make sure that each client has that time, attention, focus, and understands that they've done things correctly and you're walking them through the correct steps and ensuring that they've done it correctly. That way you don't get to this point. Because if a parent has intended for their daughter to receive half of their estate, which they went out of their way to make sure happened, it is a gross miscarriage of justice for her to lose out on her entire estate. That is her rightful inheritance promised to her. Her father wanted it to go that way. He passed away, couldn't ensure that it went that way. And because there wasn't a great attorney who caught issues in advance, but also got ahead of things when needed, she lost out on a good chunk of her estate. And it's very sad to see someone who wanted their hard-earned assets to go to their daughter lose out on all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrible to hear. So Adam, for somebody that's listening to this right now, they feel maybe a little bit nervous about starting this, undergoing this process. What would be a piece of advice you would offer to them about getting this started today?
Essentially, don't wait. There's no reason to wait. There's no reason to put off. Of course, there's superstitious notions that if you do start a will or a trust, you're closer to death. That's not true. There's also the unfamiliarity of these tools at a younger age generation or group. They tend not to know how important avoiding probate is. So these things are put off. The reassurance is needed that you have peace of mind, you have legacy, you have something in place if anything happens to you. That's not something when you die, exclusively how it goes to your kids, but also when you're alive. So if something happens to you and you're in the hospital, it's an unforeseen circumstance. You don't plan that. But people assume that their wife or their child or their spouse can sign off or make medical decisions on their behalf, and that's just not the case. So doing a full estate plan, tackling it early, means you're accounting for things not just after death, which is extremely important for preserving your legacy, having peace of mind here, but also if anything happens to you during life. That's that preparation for end-of-life decisions or making medical decisions, getting your doctor information to send to another physician, making financial decisions, paying your bills, paying your taxes, ensuring that your estate is up to date with its balances and its reoccurring expenses. But it's a big duty, and you can have these things really set, addressed, so that you don't have to worry about them. You can know that if anything happens to you, you have the system in place.
Yeah.
If you don't have the system in place, it's otherwise just a really bad place to be, and you're going to spend a lot of money. So that's where we try to get people in advance and catch them ahead of time.
Yeah. Adam, thank you for the time and insights on this. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on and look forward to the next one.
And thank you to everybody out there listening to this episode of Protecting Your Legacy with Estate Planning. Look, if you're ready to choose an attorney who's going to stand by your family, he's going to help you build a plan you can trust, do me a favor, visit stonewoodlaw.com today. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment or review on this episode, or even share it with somebody who needs to hear it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.